welcome to Night Colors Bigfoot Radio. It is November 5th, 2017, and you're here with Lori Hood and Lauren Smith. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Am I cutting out? I
Nope.
have to ask you that. Have I been cutting out? Because my audio is cutting out. And I don't know if I need to stay absolutely still and not move.
You might try that,
anyway,
but you
yeah.
sound good on my end.
Okay, well, we're going to try this, and we'll see how it works.
Well, you sound good on my end.
Okay.
So.
Just want to say that we're here at Night Callers. We're going to be keeping the people from that Texas church that they had a shooting today, and it's just a terrible thing, just terrible. I've been so upset about it all day. It's a sad thing, and so anyway, we're saying our prayers, and we hope that everyone out there will keep the families in their prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to say that my modem got fried by a storm, so I am sitting out here on my porch in the moonlight, booger hunting. Can y'all hear the crickets?
Yes, and I think that's the best way to do this show ever.
Yeah, live from Booger Hill, in the field, boogering today. Yeah, that's me.
I'm
so, if you hear a big ruckus and I'm running into the house, it's because I might have one belly crawl up, or who knows, because I'm out here all by myself, and it is, but it's beautiful. The moon is shining through the trees, and there's all these long shadows, and it's
still kind of full there, isn't it, the moon?
Do what now? You cut out.
The moon is still kind of full there, right?
Yes, it's a waning gibbous moon, and I'm going to try putting this phone on speaker, okay? Because this headset is definitely not working for me. So hold on a second. Trying to do this without glasses. I can't do this without glasses. I miss my computer. I get some internet tomorrow, so we'll be good.
Okay. Well, so tonight, everybody, we have
my
Bob
guest
Strain.
doesn't cut out too much tonight.
Well,
is everything good with you, Miss Lauren?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me at all? Because I'm talking right now. No? Hello?
Oh, gosh. Tell you what. How about you talk?
I think we've lost her. All right, Bob. We'll go ahead and get started with you, and hopefully she can find a better signal and call back in.
Okay.
No, feel bad for her. Maybe she needs to find a better place to sit. She lives way out in the boonies, so.
Is she on a cell phone?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes it kind of authentic for booger hunting.
It does. And I mean, she can sit out on her porch and have all kinds of activity. I mean, she doesn't even have to go anywhere to squatch, so that's pretty, it's got its good and its bad where she lives.
Yeah,
so,
well, like it was, hi, Lauren. Yeah, glad to be on here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for coming on tonight. And
sure.
I guess we can just go ahead and get started. So usually how we start off is we talk to you about how you got into this, what occurred that may have gotten you into this, why you're interested in this topic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Well, like I was talking to your mother, I grew up in Texas. I live in California right now, but I was born out in West Texas and grew up there for many years, and then of course moved to Dallas. And my dad and I went on a hunting trip the year I graduated high school in 1975. It kind of tells you how old I am, but the year I graduated high school, we went on a hunting trip to Idaho. To do some big game hunting up there, and we had always hunted around no big game, and so going to Idaho was just a big deal for us. And I grew up in in Abilene, and we only had like 2 TV stations, and so I never really watched that much TV except maybe Gilligan's Island and a couple of shows like that. I didn't really know anything about the Bigfoot topic per se, but this year, it was in November of, like I say, 1975. My dad and I were hunting along with some other people up in very rural, right on the edge of the wilderness, is what was called the Salmon River Wilderness area, right up near the Montana border. And one afternoon, Dad and I were doing this we're trying to kick up some game. Anybody who's deer hunted knows there's different techniques for hunting big game, and we were trying to do a bit of a drive. I was going to go over a little hill, a mountainside, and he was going to come up over another. We were going to try to push some game out into the open for either of us to get a shot at. And I was younger, of course, and a little faster than he was, and I got up to the top of my little ridge. And so it was 2, if you can try to visualize, 2 opposing ridges. And so I had a real good, clear view, and I saw something come out in the open, probably a distance of about 300 yards, and I initially thought was a bear. And it was down on all 4s and was black, and it moved across this mountainside, and I watched it for several minutes, and it was very steep embankment it was on, and we had bear tags, and I was going to take a shot. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a mama bear with cubs, and so I let it get way out into the open, but it kept looking behind itself, and I kept wondering what it was looking for, and then I finally decided that it didn't have any cubs following it, so it came straight across this hillside, and then it turned and it went straight up towards the top. And I thought, well, if I shoot this bear and it right on the steep slope where it is, it's going to roll all the way down to the bottom into the creek, and it's going to be just a mess trying to get it out of there. So it was a flat spot right up on top, and I was waiting for it to get up there. And as soon as it got up to that flat area, I was kind of taking a bead. I had a rifle, a big game deer rifle, and looking at it through my scope, and I was just about to squeeze the trigger, and it stood up on 2 legs. And it turned around and kind of walked back, paced back and forth, and then it turned and very quickly walked off, just straight across the side of the top of this ridge. And in the same kind of fashion that the Patterson-Gimlin film subject, Patty walked, just sort of leaning forward in that cross-country skier type motion, and my brain just went into a sort of it just like it does not compute sort of thing. And I watched it and I thought, man, that's a guy. That's not a bear. That's a man. And why is it all dressed in black? And I could see its hands, and I didn't get a good look at its face, but I could tell that it wasn't carrying anything, wasn't wearing a backpack, and it was all one color, uniformly black. And I looked around, and it confused me. I took out my binoculars, and I'm going, well, where's the bear? What's this guy? Now there's a bear, now there's a guy. Now how did this happen? What did I miss? And it was very confusing to me. And I just watched it just saunter off into the woodline. And then a few minutes later, I see my dad emerge over on the far side of the hill where this thing had initially emerged from the trees. And the only problem was he was only about half as tall as this, what I thought was a man covered in black. He was only about half as tall. And again, my brain was going, it's got to be altitude sickness. I don't know. It was just, it was so confusing to me. And so it was just something that I filed away in the back of my head. We had another experience 2 days later, and we were driving. It snowed heavy the next day, and so the next morning we went out before dawn, and we were going up this real snowy road in the dark. To the right side of the road, it was a little 2-track road, we see what looks like a burned-out tree stump, and it's just black against a solid white background. And as we got closer, and our headlights were getting closer to it, this tree stump started shrinking, and it got shorter, and it got wider. And everybody in the truck is going, what is going on with that? And then it stretched, looked like I've described it as an oil slick going across the road, very slowly and low, and at one point it stretched all the way across that 2-track road from one side to the other. We could see the white disappearing in front of it, and then as it went further, and very slowly, and as it went further across, then you could see the white appear behind it. And just as our headlights hit it, it went over an embankment off the side of the road and knocked a bunch of snow off the tree limb, and all this snow fell down. And so we sent a guy out. He wasn't real happy about doing it, but, peer pressure, and shoved him. Here's your chance to be a man. Here's a pistol and a flashlight. Go for it, boy, go. And so he hesitated, but he went over the embankment and came back in a big hurry and goes, sorry, let's get out of here. Let's go. And so he was very insistent, so we drove off, and he's trying to explain that he saw something trying to hide in the trees, and it was covered in fur, and he didn't know what it was, and he's not going to shoot at anything. He doesn't know what it is, and okay. Then we hunted at the top of the ridge, saw nothing, got back to the truck. More snow had fallen. There was fresh snow around the truck, and it looked like giant bear prints. What we thought were bear prints circled our truck. And I'm going, Dad, God, that's the biggest. That bear's got to be huge. And he goes, well, son, bear will step in its own tracks and make it look bigger than it is. I go, man, that looks like a bare foot, like a human bare foot. It's huge. And we headed back down the same road we had come up on. And now this guy, which is a friend of my cousin's, had gotten his story together. He goes, well, I figured out what I saw, and I think I saw a hunter on horseback wearing a fur coat with the hood pulled up over his head. And we're going, okay, now wait a minute.
Well, that sounds good.
Okay, now we didn't see a horse, and if that was a hunter, he's wearing a fur coat and crawling across the road in the snow. Is that what you're saying? We said, well, did you see the horse? And he said, well, no. But he was walking away from me, and it had to be on horseback because he was so tall that he had to be riding a horse. And these two events that were on the same hunting trip stuck with me for years, and I kind of filed it away. And it wasn't until the advent of the Internet that I just happened upon the BFRO site and a couple other websites, the old Bigfoot forums, and I started reading it, and it all came back. That's what I saw. That's what I saw. I saw a Bigfoot. That's what I saw. And it just reminded me, and I talked to some people, and my wife, Kathy, for one, I told her, I said, yeah, we saw this ground sloth crawling across the road. And she said, wait a minute, a ground sloth in Idaho? Yeah. She said, please give me a break. That was a Bigfoot belly crawling across the road. And I went, oh, you think? She went, Yes, that's what I think. And
so you tell
Kathy and I met in 2003 at the International Bigfoot Symposium, and we got married, and boom, it's in my blood. So it wasn't that, I'm sorry to go on so long about this, but it wasn't something that I was interested in and I was going to go out and look for and, think it could be real. I mean, I come from a unique spot which some people do in the same places. I saw something that I can only label as a Bigfoot or a North American ape, a wood ape, whatever it is you want to call it. That's what it was, and I don't have to be convinced. And so that's what got me involved in it. To be honest with you, it was just like, oh, that's what I saw. Oh, so here I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell the guys what you saw when you first climbed that ridge? I mean, did you come clean?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you mean that day?
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, I did. I did, as a matter of fact. When my dad came out on that hillside, he had a little CB walkie-talkie, and he was looking for me. He knew I was over there, and I could see him scanning for me, and I waved my hat, and he saw me, and he pulls out his radio and goes, "Son, I just can't walk across this hillside. It is way too steep, and all the rocks are just giving way under my feet, and I'm going to slide all the way to the bottom, and it's just too treacherous." And I said, "Okay, Dad, but there is some big dude above you up there on that hill, and he's huge. Who is that?" And he goes, "Son, there's nobody over here but me." I said, "Dad, this guy's huge. He's huge. And he's right above you, and he's all dressed in black." He goes, "I don't see anything, son." I thought, "Oh my God, Dad, well, be careful. That guy's huge." And we got back to the truck. And some of the other guys, actually we had two trucks. We got back, and everybody, and I'm telling the story, and we pull out the maps, and we're going, God, where could that guy be going? There's no cars around here. There's no place. We're right at the edge of the wilderness area. What is that guy doing? And for us, it was like some giant big dude dressed in black wandering around the hills, and we couldn't figure it out. And then there were multiple witnesses there were 5 of us that witnessed the thing going off the side of the road 2 days later. And so we were all just kind of dumbfounded. But, we didn't really know what it was, what it could have been. So it was just one of those things that we wrote off. It was just, it was just sort of, like I say, this is 1975. And so it wasn't anything really that we really spent a lot of time thinking about. So, it was very, and I've had other experiences after that were equally perplexing. So it kind of dawned on me. I started putting all these experiences together, and real quick, and this helps contribute to my interest in it as well. It was a couple of years after this, I had moved to California, and my dad and I are up here in California, actually only about an hour from where Kathy and I live right now, up in the mountains. Again, right up on the edge of the wilderness area. We would always try to hunt deer just as far back as we could go. And Dad and I went up about a month before deer season opened, and we were going to build some deer blinds out of brush and brush them up, and then let the deer get used to them for a month or so before we sneak back in on opening morning in the dark. And we went up, got up there late Friday night, spent the night in this camper, then all day Saturday we're out building deer blinds for ourselves. And came back, and we had a campfire going, and we were the only ones there. It was dispersed camping. We were not in a campgrounds at all. And we're sitting there by the fire, and Dad calls me over to his side of the fire, and he's looking out into the darkness. And he goes, "Son, come over here and look out there and tell me what you see." And I go and put my back to the fire, and I'm looking out in the dark, and my eyes adjust, and I go, God, Dad, that looks like two giant red eyes out there staring at us.
Oh,
he goes, he goes, what do you suppose that is? I said, God, I don't know, Dad. They're huge, and they're kind of really high up in the air. I think maybe there's a raccoon up in the tree or something like that. And he goes, The only problem with that, son, is that's a meadow over there, and there ain't no trees out in that meadow. Whoa. Well, I don't know what it is, and long story short, over a period of another half hour, 45 minutes, I see not only one set of red eyes, which never left. They kind of would turn away, but then they would turn back. There was then became two sets of red eyes, and then a total of three sets of red eyes over there, all looking at us, just beating down on us. And it's like, it was starting to get just a little bit creepy out there in the dark, let me tell you what. So we got back in the camper. Yeah, Dad goes, were you getting hungry? And I go, yeah, we got in the camper. And he's sitting there, he's making some sandwiches. And something smacked the side of that camper so hard that the entire truck rocked from side to side. The rearview mirror on the passenger side went like that after it. Stuff fell out of the cabinet, and we're going, what was that? I mean, something hit the truck. Something hit the camper. We jumped out. We ran around the truck with our flashlights and pistols, and we didn't see anything. It was quiet as a church mouse out there. And we didn't see anything, nothing that would have made that noise. And so we're starting to get back in the camper, and we hear just the most blood-curdling, woman being murdered scream from out in front of the truck over an embankment in the darkness. Long, just horrendous scream, loud. And what was that? And then there was an identical answering scream back behind us out there where the red eyes had been. And we went, whoa, dang, Dad, what's going on here? I said, I don't know. Well, let's eat sandwiches. So we got back in the truck.
Oh, my God.
And I could have swore all night long I had the sensation that there was something out there circling, walking around. I could hear movement and limbs snapping and just the creepiest thing ever. But, we spent the night there. And, again, I had no explanation for this at all. And then the more I investigated and talked to Kathy about it, she'd been doing research. She'd been a member of the BFRO for several years before I met her and had a lifelong interest in the Bigfoot subject, and she's very well versed in it. And she just rolled her eyes and said, please, you're killing me here. Those three sets of red eyes back in the camper screaming. I was, oh, you think that was Bigfoot? Oh, my God. Yes, I do. Oh, okay. So, yeah, here we are. We're just a match made in heaven, Kathy and I. And so, yeah, we've been doing our own research since we've been married. We've been married over 12 years now. And then been doing research before we were married, and certainly plenty of it since then as well.
That is awesome.
I tell you, you don't know how fortunate you are that you have a spouse that's got the same interest, and that is a match made in heaven right there for sure. But I have to ask you, I kind of got in and I missed a little bit, but from what it sounds like to me, have you ever wondered if you or your dad are Bigfoot magnets? Because those are some pretty close-up encounters.
Oh, I kind of have thought that. Actually, Kathy has called me a Bigfoot magnet. And I have other less, well, she's kind of a Bigfoot magnet, too. But I have other less exciting experiences that I've had, just the things I thought were like I won't say stalking me, but following me as I've been deer hunting. I'm an avid hunter and bow hunter, and of course rifle as well. And I've had a lot of just really creepy experiences that I've often wondered, why. What is it? What is it? But I guess because I get out there, and I think in retrospect, a lot of it has to do with I'm now more aware of signs of what these things will do, and so I can look back and maybe attribute some more as possible experiences than what I've had, than what I did at the time, certainly. But yeah, no, Kathy's called me a Bigfoot magnet. I mean, I don't want to sound immodest or anything, but if I was a Bigfoot, I'd be attracted to me.
Well, the reason why I say is because, number one, you've had these experiences. You were hunting at the time, and they didn't seem to be worried that you were going to shoot them. Mm-hmm. And in both instances that I heard you talk about, in both you were armed, your dad was armed.
Yep.
And which I found very strange because general, but although, Lauren and I did a database study several years ago, way back in, I guess, 2001. She helped me with it. How old were you, Lauren? About 9 or 10? And you're going to have to turn your phone up, girl. I can barely hear you. But anyway, she helped me with it, and what we discovered, and we just did Texas sightings, the 200 best Texas sightings or encounters reports. We went on reports, and we found that 40% of the people that saw Bigfoot were hunters. And I think it's probably because of where they're at. They're out in the middle of nowhere where no men usually go, and they're searching for that deer. So if you're in some very deep wilderness, you're more likely to encounter a Sasquatch. But let's just say you're a magnet.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Well, tell us. I know you've had more experiences, and they may not be as mind-changing as those were, but we'd love to hear about your other experiences.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, sure. Well, like I said, the only other real big one that stands out from my ancient times, as I would like to call it, not since I've been actively researching, would be one time that I definitely got the sensation that I was being followed by something. I was hearing a lot of noise up on a mountainside that was in real heavy timber up here.
Let me ask you a question real quick, Bob. Was it on
Sure.
your right? The sound coming
sorry,
from your right? Was it coming from your right? Your right.
Oh,
was
yeah.
it on the right side of it?
Yes, it was.
I have found that if they are going to pace you, or what is if they shadow you, it's always on your right. Whatever, if you're right-handed, it's on your right. If you're left-handed, it's on your left. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
Well, no, that's all right. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yes, it happened to be on my right, and it was more of a big meadow off to my left, and a very steep upward slope in the heavy timber off to my right, and it was definitely noise. I mean, it was limbs cracking and limbs snapping, a lot of down wood on limbs and sticks and stuff like that, and that was here crunching and popping up there. I never saw anything, and I looked. And it could have been anything. I mean, seriously, I can't, and I'm not going to say that it was definitely Bigfoot related, but it was definitely something, and it was, when I stopped walking, it stopped, and when I started, it started, and when I stopped, it stopped. So that's probably,
I would say it was.
yeah. I've a possible other time is my dad and I were gold panning in a river, and something was throwing very large stones, probably about the size of a basketball, into the river just upstream around the bend from us. And we could see it splashing in the water and hear it cracking on the rocks on the bottom of the river. And I kept walking up around the bend of the river, which wasn't very far at all, like 40, 50 feet, and looking up there, and there was nobody up there. If they were hiding up on the hill, and we were there for several hours, and this only happened for about, 10 minutes or so, but it was multiple huge rock throws in the water, and I just thought it was the strangest thing ever. But, in California, I mean, there's varying degrees of strange. What's strange to a boy from Abilene is normal in California. So, but since my wife Kathy and I have been doing research together, we have had, we've got an area up here in the Sierras that historically has had a lot of activity and reports from it, and we followed up on a lot of reports of sightings from the area, footprints, and it's been really cool to be so close to an area that is, if you go on the BFRO database, Tuolumne County has the second most number of reports in the state of California. And so it's been a lot of fun being able to track down recent reports of sightings, vocalizations, tracks, and that sort of thing. And we've been doing, in years past, lots of call blasting, what we call call blasting, have recorded calls like the Ohio Howl and the Tahoe Scream, and have we put together we call it a call blaster. It's a car amplifier, 500-watt car amplifier, and 4 100-watt outdoor PA speakers, and we hook it up to the car battery, and we play recordings to it, and you can hear this thing. It's extremely loud for miles. We've scared people. We've been shot at. we didn't know people were camping down the hill, and we set the old howl off one night, and you could hear all the way down from the bottom of the canyon. What the F was that? And boom, 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 boom. And then our campfire got huge. And then the next day, we kind of drove down there just to see what was going on. And there's this camp. Chairs are knocked over. The tent is wide open, and there's nobody there. It's like, oh, my God, we scared them off. I felt so bad. But we've got some pretty awesome vocalization responses from that area as well. But probably some of the most exciting stuff, well, I'll be honest with you, it's from my sighting in 1975 and those red eyes I saw a couple of years later. Absolutely, without a doubt, the most exciting stuff has happened after we became a part of the North America Wood Ape Conservancy, and we were invited out to southeast Oklahoma and to their area that they call Area X. And we have had sightings very close, undeniable sightings of in southeast Oklahoma, and we were a little skeptical when we went out there. But, well, because, I'm from West Texas. My idea of Oklahoma is western Oklahoma. It's like,
exactly.
like tumbleweeds and prairie dogs. But you go to southeast Oklahoma near the Arkansas border, and you are in the jungle. So we had no clue, and we got down there, and we have had some extremely exciting happenings in there. So Kathy and I had I believe it was, I want to say June 2012, and we had she and I, actually, there were 4 of us. There were 5 of us there, and only 4 of us saw these two animals. But that's why we say, we have a joke. We say 4 out of 5 Bigfoot researchers see Bigfoot. And it's because the 5th guy basically was obscured from his sight, and he's going, where? I don't see him. Where? And he was behind it. He was behind the tree, and by the time he got out in the open, they were gone. But we saw 2 of them quite clearly. 2 of them. So it was in May. That's right. It was in May of 2012. We saw them quite clearly, and we paced it off at about 50 yards, and there were 2 of them, and it had been a long day. It had been with a lot of activity happening that day. And we had rock throws hitting nearby metal roofs, just sounded like gunshots going off. They had us running back from one end of the little area to the other over a span of several hundred yards. It was like, boom, boom, and we'd run. There they are. We'd run down there, then boom, back the other way, and we'll run back the other way. And finally, Kathy said, I'm staying right here in the middle. And so one of them, one of our friends, Mark McClurkin, said, I see something gray up on the hill, and it's moving through the brush. And so, Bob, get down here. So I went down there, and we were messing around down there and trying to see up on the hill. It was so thick. Just like a jungle, like I said, it is so thick, the vegetation. The annual rainfall in that area is like, my goodness, 70 to 80 inches a year, which for any parts of the country except for the Pacific Northwest that's a lot of rain. And so it's really thick and greenbrier and thorns and rocks and snakes and ticks and everything is there. And so there was another rock throw, boom, off the other direction. And these are undeniable. This is not like a nut falling on it. This sounds like a grenade going off. And,
wow.
And, very, just a boom.
Wow.
And so as we go back by, we're going to go back. Check this out. They had us just running in circles. Kathy said, hey, Bob, why don't you just stay here for a second with me? And so she'd been landed right in the middle, watching one direction. And this is why she's the queen, is because she knows what to do. It's like if they're running you back and forth from one side to the other, sit in the middle. Something is there. They're trying to get you away from something. Why do they why are you running around? There's something right there in the middle. And she said, I saw a branch pop back up, like something had been pulling it down. And she goes, go look over there in those bushes. And so I go over there, and like I said, this is only 50 yards away, not even that much from her at that time. And I stick my head in these bushes, and I'm pushing the branches down, and I look down in this little ditch, just like a little gully, like a little drainage, and I'm looking up to the other side. Now, in my mind, we had not seen these 2 creatures yet. In my mind, I'm looking for, you have a preconceived notion of what Bigfoot is going to look like, Patty. And it's like, just standing there looking at you, right? And so that's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking all around. And, sweetie, I don't see anything. She goes, they're in there. I swear, there's something there. Keep looking. I'm looking. And I'm thinking, God, well, could walk all the way around this big brushy area to get up on the hillside, very steep and hillside behind it. I could walk all the way around. There's a big deadfall tree sticking out into the trail right there. And it was clearly a deadfall tree. It was a tree. And I think, well, I could do Daniel Boone style. I could hop up on this tree and then, like, try to, tightrope my way across it. But I could just fall down that ditch. And we've only been here 2 days. I don't want to break my leg on the second day. And all this greenbrier growing over it. And I'm looking down. I go, well, there's a couple of logs down there in that ditch, too. And there's one right beside the tree, and there's one perpendicular to it, and they're touching, and I could, like, put left foot here, right foot on that black log, and then I could just go across. And I thought, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And I don't know why, but I just pulled out and said, sweetie, there's nothing here. I don't see anything. I could see through to the other side, and I could see a trail going up on the hill. And I said, well, there's a trail, and it's obscured from your view, and if they went up that trail, you wouldn't have seen them. And she went, okay, well, sounds kind of cheesy, but all right. And she really wasn't satisfied with that answer. But then the other guys came back from their little excursion, and everything got quiet, and so it was pretty warm, and it was starting to get late in the afternoon. The shadows were really long. And so we said, all right, let's document everything that happened. So we sat down, and this is right next to the cabin that we were staying in, and a primitive cabin, no electricity, certainly no cell phone, no real running water. And we're sitting there in our camp chairs taking a break, and we are videotaping each other, trying to document everything as well as we could, and talking about everything that had happened, all the rock throws, all the activity. And then we hear a bunch of crunching in the leaves. And we thought, what is that? Is that an animal? We'd seen a fox around. We thought, is that the fox? And Kathy has the best view staring down right at that area, basically right at the same bushes where I had been stuck my head in. And there are 2 upright animals, very dark in color, one larger than the other, walking in our general direction. There was like a little shed that was beside the cabin, and it appeared, in retrospect, it appeared as though that they were trying to make their way behind that shed and not have us notice them. And, but of course, Kathy busted them. She goes, oh, my God, and there they are. She jumps up, and she takes off in a dead run right at them. And we're going, what? And I jump up, and I see, and I didn't know where to look. She didn't point at them. She just, like, jumped up and took off. So I'm looking over her head, trying to see what she's running at, and I see 2 of them standing there, and it was like Keystone Cops. The one in front turned around and quickly rushed back to the other one, and they, like, bumped against each other. And they kind of stood there, and they kind of did a little jig for a second, like, uh-oh, what do we do? And then, boom, they went up that embankment like nothing else on earth. I swear, there cannot be a quicker, more agile animal on this planet than that jaguar. No, that would be the only thing that could equal that. That was lightning fast, smooth, silent. Went up that embankment, very steep and very rocky, and trees down and greenbrier vines with thorns. They traversed it like it was absolutely nothing. And we just stood there with our mouths hanging open, like, and then, boom, they were gone.
Wow.
Just that fast.
What was she, I mean, the woman has got to have cojones of steel. Why did she just sprint right at them? Like, what was her thought?
Why did she?
Did she share that with
Oh,
you?
no, she was going to grab a handful of hair and probably ride one like a rodeo bull. And, yeah, I mean, yeah, she did the first anthropologist in history to ride a ride a wood ape like a rodeo. Hang on for 8 seconds, you win the internet. I hear. I don't know, but
oh my God.
It was just her instinct. It was what she's been looking for all her life, and there they were, and it was just like boom. I mean, there was no hesitation. She was up and she was gone. I asked her, what were you going to do when you got there? She said, I don't know. Hug them, bite them, grab a handful of hair. I don't know. It didn't matter. She was at them, and she got a good look. She got halfway there before they took off. And
how big do you think they were?
Well, we did a recreation.
How big did you think they were? Huh?
Yeah. Well, we did a recreation the next day in the daylight, and we used Mark McClurkin, which was the tallest member of the team that was out there that day, and he's just a little over 6 foot, and they were good 6, 8, 10 inches taller than him and much broader. And Mark, I love Mark to death, but he'll tell you he ain't no pixie. And but he's an outdoorsman, and he's a country boy. He's corn fed, and he is just solid muscle, but he's big. And we grew up in a farm his whole life, I think. I mean, I don't know. He acts like it. He literally knows everything about the woods. But they were much bigger and much thicker than he was, and so it was kind of tough to tell, exactly how big they were. But the interesting thing is, and I don't know if you've heard this story. I mean, I'll quickly finish this off. Is the next morning? Let me back up. That night we had rock throws, we had rock slides on the hillside above us. We had so much activity that night. We had PTSD. We were mentally and physically exhausted, and we were getting rocks just bam, bam on the cabin, and we're just going, oh my God, just stop already, just stop throwing those rocks. We were yelling at, stop throwing rocks. But we were exhausted. Yeah, but because your adrenaline is so high. Well, the next morning we got up and we went down there, and Ken, who was our videographer and documenting all of our interviews and everything, and he said, okay, Bob, come on down here. It was just him and Brian Brown, the founder of the original Bigfoot forums, and me that were up. And he goes, come back down here. Just tell me your story about how Kathy asked you to go look inside the bushes and what'd you see and what'd you do. And I said, well, I come down here, and she's looking there, and I come back and I say, honey, there's only 2 or 3 logs down here in this little gully. And I said, and I'm recreating it, and I parked the bushes away, and I looked down there, and I said, there's only 2 or 3 logs down in that gully. And I looked down there, and the only log was that deadfall tree. Those 2 black ones that I was going to put my foot on and walk across are now gone.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Ken said, Bob, if you could see the look on your face when you realized you almost stepped on 2 wood apes. I was only 6, 7 feet away from them. And I did not see them for what they were. I wasn't looking that closely. I'm looking for upright animals, and I'm just glancing down, like, where do I put my foot? You don't really study it, especially if you think you're that close to a large animal. And I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I almost stepped on them. And
you
that,
would have got to ride a wood ape.
oh yeah, no, yeah, I'd have been 8 seconds, yeah, because I'd have been stuck from just fear on there. I don't know. Who knows what would have happened? Who knows? And I hear a lot.
Kathy would have been mad at you for not grabbing no hair. That's what would have happened.
Oh, yeah, no. If I didn't come back with a fistful of hair, I might as well just not even come back. But And I've told this story before, and I've heard naysayers, and it's another reason why you really shouldn't read what people write on the internet. They're going, "Oh yeah, no, he is on drugs." I was not on drugs. We were not drinking. I know what I saw, and I don't care if they don't believe me. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know exactly what.
Nobody
I know exactly
cares what
happened.
the trolls think. You know,
No,
you've been in this
you're
for
right.
a while. The trolls do not matter. You know, they don't matter. You know.
Right.
If a troll is bothering you, then you haven't been in this long enough to develop the thick skin you need to do this. That's all I can say.
That's true. That's true. That's a very good point. So that was the most probably the most exciting thing. A couple of days later, I had another sighting, brief sighting of one that I'll call cinnamon colored, and I saw the sun glisten off of its hair as I walked through an opening in the sun, and it reminded me of the color of an Irish setter and the way the sun just glistened off of it. And Kathy we've been back to this area that we call Area X over the past, since 2012, every summer. And we've been there both together and separately as well. I spent 3 weeks there with a group of guys, 3 different groups of guys without her, and she spent 3 weeks there without me. But, of course, there were other North American Wood Apes Conservancy members there with her, and she had a sighting as she saw something that was like a chimpanzee jump from the one tree to another tree over across an opening and broke branches as it caught the tree and landed when it caught the other tree it jumped into. And then a year or so later, she saw a extremely large one from our recreation, extremely large gray one walk through an opening at probably no more than 50, 60 yards. And it just dwarfed me. It was easily 2 feet taller than me and easily 4 feet wide as it filled up this opening in the trees. And she clearly saw it. She was looking right at it, just happened to be looking in that area. And we've experienced lots of things in and around those cabins as well, rock throws and heard what we call faux speech, or what some would say samurai chatter. And I wouldn't say it was samurai chatter. It's more. And I heard that again this last summer when I was there.
It's more like a babbling, a kind of a blue.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I accused one of the guys of talking in his sleep, and I'm across the way, and I told this guy, "Man, God, everybody, you talk in your sleep." He goes, "I don't talk in my sleep. I've never been told I talk in my sleep." He goes, "How do you know it was me?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't think it was the other guys, And just Daryl Collier was there, and he just looked at me and goes, "Bob, that wasn't talking in the sleep. That was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Yeah. No rhyme or reason, but you're thinking it came from behind the tent where somebody was sleeping. So my mind told me somebody talking in their sleep. I mean, I don't know. But we've heard that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. So quite a bit of experience there. Yeah.
What about vocalizations? Because I've camped quite a bit in southeast Oklahoma, and I've never heard vocalizations. Anytime I've ever been there. One time I was actually on top of a mountain, and I never heard any vocalizations. So what about vocalizations in southeast Oklahoma? Do they vocalize there?
Well, I think they do. I have heard what I believe to be genuine, authentic vocalizations. I think they're probably certainly more rare than they are in, let's say, here in California in the Sierras. And I don't know whether it's because the distances may be further in, let's say, the Sierras, because the terrain is conducive to being spread out over large areas. It's not as thick, if you will, with the vegetation down low to the ground. And so that may be a form of communication of them locating each other. And from greater distances, where in, let's say, southeast Oklahoma, they can stay closer together and have food resources, and so they don't have to be spread out further apart, and they can communicate through other methods, like we've heard certainly got a lot of wood knocks. We've heard things, whistles. We've heard what is something we call talks. And it's like if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth and you suck it down real fast and kind of make a talk sound.
Yes.
Yeah, we've heard that. Yeah, we've heard that.
I call it a click, but you know. Yeah. It's more like.
I think they have a wide range of vocalizations, and it's like I'm starting to wonder. And we've talked about this as a group. It's like, what is their intent in doing this? Is it something that they are intentionally trying to locate or communicate in some way, location with one of their family members, their partners, or the member of their group, or whatever it is? Are they doing that? And is it intentional or not? I mean, it's really hard to say. There's a school of thought that a lot of the vocalizations that you hear, including this babbling speech, is that it's an emotional response, that they can't control that. There are videos of chimpanzees finding a food cache, a food store, especially like in a zoo. They'll get a lot of footage and a lot of research from captive animals, and where they'll put out like a big bunch of fruit, and a chimpanzee will find it, and they'll just be so excited that they'll squeal, and all the other chimps come running over, and it's like, Halloween. They just empty out their candy immediately, where these chimps will learn that they have to put their hand over their mouth because they can't control their own vocalizations. So, we have so much more to learn about these animals. We really do. But I have heard whoops. We've heard what we would call howls, much similar to the Ohio howl in what we call Area X. This summer when I was there, I spent a week there, and I heard 2 series of 5 whoops each, and they sounded very human-like. I mean, I'll be honest with you. After the 4th or 5th, and we were whooping back to them, they changed their inflection to mimic ours, and they're at the end, we're going, man, that sounds human. But, of course, they're not human, and there's just the sound. It's our brains trying to put things in a box, and that's probably, as Bigfoot researchers, some of our biggest struggle is with ourselves and trying to understand what it is that we are experiencing and make sense of it. You can't, if it's something that you have never experienced before in your life and you can't explain it, your brain tries to put a label on it, and that's comfortable, and that's what we have to fight against. But yeah, we have heard vocalizations there, but I don't think they're as common as they are in out west for whatever reasons. Yeah,
okay,
interesting. Good question.
I have a question for you. Do you? I guess you do call. Do you bait, put food out?
Well, it's interesting you should say that. We have in times past, so recently we've kind of gotten away from that. We used to do that quite a bit, and there has been some success. Well, I've had friends, Tom Yamarone and Bobo, we're up at Fish Lake, very close to Bluff Creek and the Six Rivers National Forest, and they set out 12 apples, and there's something ran through about 3 o'clock in the morning, clearly ran through the middle of their camp, left footprints, shook the ground as it ran by, and they could hear it kind of mumbling to itself, and they got up and went over to their little bait pile of apples, and there was all but 2 of them were gone. One was on the ground, and they were gone. So whatever came by did a drive-by, scooped up the apples, and ran.
Wow.
So not saying that it won't work, but if I had any advice, it would be to use something that is common to the area. So, I mean, I wouldn't be putting papayas out. They're probably not going to know what that is if you're in East Texas. But whatever grows locally in the orchards around there, I think that can be pretty productive. And, yeah, we used to do that with food. We used to do other things as well, pheromone chips. Never really seemed to get a lot of great results from the pheromone chips for whatever reason. And, of course, the problem with food and food baiting is there's 1,000 other animals out there, and whatever else you're going to draw in as well.
Bears.
Yeah. There's a lot of bear up there. Yes, there is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you got to be careful of that.
Wow.
So, yeah. It can be productive, but to be honest with you, I think what is the biggest bait is you.
Yes.
You're
I was going to say
you.
that, that all you have to do is show up. They know you're there, so I don't know. They can hear you drive in. They can hear you. During normal camp activities during the day, especially if you go out and hike. They spot you. They'll follow you back to camp. They know you're there. There's just a lot of different ways to get. Well, you really don't have to do anything, to be honest. They'll show up if they're there. But that is fascinating. I have just loved listening to you, Bob. You're just an excellent speaker, and the way you tell everything is very entertaining and easy to listen to. So,
well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You were talking about, you had things happen, but you didn't really, put them all together. I was very much like you. I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never even thought about Bigfoot. I never paid attention to the Patterson-Gimlin film or Boggy Creek or any of that. And I moved into an area that was rife with them. And it took me several years to realize what was going on. But one of the first things that happened to me is we were out night fishing, and I was with my father-in-law and husband, and they both couldn't hear very well. And I heard a bunch of coyotes off in the distance, and they were really carrying on, and then all of a sudden there was this roar, and then or actually it was a long howl, and it ended with a roar, like a lion. And it absolutely scared me to death. I'd been in the woods for years. I'd never heard anything that could roar and howl and with such force. And so I said, I'm ready to go back, because they couldn't hear it. I said, y'all can't hear that? And they said, no. I go, y'all didn't hear that? And they said, no. And I said, well, I'm ready to go. And it was like everything on that lake went dead quiet. And so we're in a party barge, which doesn't move very fast. And I just had this sensation that it jumped into the lake and was swimming towards us and was going to overtake the boat and kill every one of us. I mean, I had that kind of fear because it was just something so foreign to anything I'd ever heard before. And then when we got to the boat ramp, of course, it was me that had to go up there and get the truck and back it down to the boat trailer. And so this is 4 o'clock in the morning, and the truck is the only one there, and they had started fishing about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and had just picked me up about 10 o'clock. Well, there were still boats and trucks and everything else there, but by this time, there was nobody there, and that truck was clear up in the parking lot. And all the while I'm thinking, this isn't very far from where we heard the howl. And so I am running across that parking lot like my butt's on fire, and I just want to get in the truck and get it back down there. And the whole time I'm just looking. I'm just waiting for some big, huge monster to come busting through the forest to get us, I don't know why I thought it was roaring at us. I don't think it was even roaring at us, but it was just such a frightening sound. And all of this is happening, and I have no idea about Bigfoot. None. It wasn't until a couple of years later I just happened to fall in with a bunch of people that believed in Bigfoot, who I was laughing at because I couldn't believe they believed in Bigfoot, but I liked them. They were all personable and all. But anyway, Dallas Gilbert, I don't know if you know who he is, the late Dallas Gilbert. He had a recording, and he played the recording, and it was exactly what I heard. And it was like at that moment, it was like what you said, how everything just floods back on you. All of a sudden you realize the walking you heard outside in the pitch dark around your house, the wood knocks, all the sounds you were hearing out the woods that you couldn't explain. Everything came running back to me, and I felt hot and cold, and I thought I was going to be sick, and I just couldn't believe that something like that really did exist. And it took actually seeing one for me to be completely over the rainbow, because before that I was, I was sure they were there, but I didn't absolutely believe till I saw one. But it just, when you were talking about that, it just really reminded me of how I really began this journey, and how it was all a call in the dark, and that's how it began for me. So I don't know.
That's really interesting. That's a great experience. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, well, thank you. I just felt like I wanted to. So you and Kathy are such a great team, and have had so many experiences together, which is just I'm just so excited for you guys that there's never a I'd like to go out Bigfoot hunting. Okay, I'm going too. It's awesome.
Right.
So, but you think that they are an animal and not human. We have had 250 shows. I'm guessing it's approximately that many broadcasts. And we have so many different opinions on what they are. And we've had some that believe, without a doubt, there's some sort of relic human, And then some that think they're Nephilim. And then some that think they're, we've gotten a few on the shows that thought they were interdimensional. And, we try to avoid guests like that because we're trying to keep it as, we just don't really want to venture into that area. And what do you? I know you don't know what they are. You're like the rest of us. You don't know really what they are, but what have you entertained the most as to what they are?
Well, that's a good question, and I know that there are a lot of opinions out there, and that's the beauty of a undocumented, as far as science goes, unproven species. But I'll tell you, from everything that I've experienced and from everything that I've read, I just can't entertain the idea that they are anything other than flesh and blood. And of course, I have probably the biggest expert on my team that you can imagine, and that's of course my wife Kathy is a trained anthropologist. She's a master's degree in anthropology, and she got into this because of her interest in, it was actually Boggy Creek as a child got her interested in it, and she is and we were both convinced that they're not human. They are of this earth. They are not interdimensional, and certainly not human, but they're primates. And that's what we firmly believe, and they are some type of an ape, and we call them the wood ape, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, that we are firmly embedded with, and great friends, but also some of the leading researchers on the planet in this subject, and very dedicated and very serious about what we do, what we all do as a group. And from what we've witnessed, we've seen them in trees. We've seen how they traverse a hillside. We've heard the vocalizations that they make. We know they bleed. They can, and from evidence that we see from footprint tracks, and I got to give Cliff Bergman props here. I've seen some of his work and heard his presentations on the articulation of their feet, and has actually even gone beyond. I'm sorry.
He's excellent. Yeah, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. He's even sort of surpassed what Dr. Jeff Meldrum has done in the flexibility of their foot, that they are much like a hand, even though their tracks don't necessarily resemble a hand, but it is flexible enough to act as a hand. And that can only come about from being an ape. Their body structure, and there are many things that are a lot smarter. Kathy is well versed in all of this, but all I know is from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've experienced, and so that's our hypothesis, if you will, or our belief that they are some type of an ape. Now, what lineage they come from, that's not my department. I don't really know. But if, as far as the interdimensional stuff, first of all, you're going to have to prove to me that that's even possible for anything at all. We just can't assign it. They can go in and out of portals. Well, who does that? What does that? Show me how that is even possible in existence at all, and then maybe we'll talk.
What has happened is that it's become easy to make that claim that they travel through portals, that they're interdimensional, and things like that. It's easy to make that claim if you don't have to prove it. It's just like when you have a sighting, you can't prove that you actually had that sighting. And so because it falls into the same category, they think I can't prove that we saw Bigfoot, so therefore I can't prove that they're interdimensional either. So, since you can't prove you saw one, and I can't prove they're interdimensional, well, then it should be allowed. But the problem with that is it becomes too complicated. It's already a complicated subject without bringing in this paranormal. And I feel like it and I'll probably get bashed for saying this, but I feel like what's the word I'm trying to think of? It complicates things. It makes it harder. It just gets so confusing. As it is right now, it is a subject that we just don't have all the answers to. But then when you throw in all of that, it's just you want to throw your hands up and say, well, I'm going to go chase ghosts. At least everybody's on the same page with that.
Right.
Well, probably not. They probably have the same issues there, too, But I have always believed that they're flesh and blood. Number one, because they do bleed. People have blood samples. They leave tracks. They have a odor. They growl. Have you ever had experience with infrasound? I need to ask you that. Have you ever had an experience with infrasound?
No, I really haven't, and I have been close to them, obviously. On that one occasion where I almost stepped on them, I heard nothing, felt nothing. I was carrying a gun. I don't ever have any experience where I've been incapacitated in any way by any kind of sound. Now, I do believe that they can probably rumble really low, and if it's a large animal, and if it's going to emit a deep growl, it's probably going to emit some type of a low frequency rumble that you can feel in your chest. And real quick, I'll tell you that when you mentioned that howl that you heard on the lake, I have heard that howl, and that was another experience that I had way prior to me getting involved in this. And I was hunting up in the Trinity River Wilderness area. We horsebacked in, and we had a packer take us 12 miles back into the wilderness area on horseback and dropped us off. And we were deer hunting up there again with my dad, and my cousin, a bunch of his friends, and myself and this other guy hiked. We went up to the top of a ridge about a mile away from our base camp, spent the night in a little pup tent up there, and we had a mule. We had rented a mule to stay with us the entire time. We wanted to, be able to pack our gear around, and a deer if we got one. And we had her tied to a tree, just a short distance, maybe 30 feet from our little tent. And it was late. We're about to get into the tent, this other guy and myself, and we heard a scream, and I'll throw my voice out if I try to recreate it. And it was 8 to 10 seconds long, and it started out, if you can imagine, in the beginning, several seconds of a woman being murdered, bloody murder scream. And then it went into a howl, and then at the end it went into a roar that sounded like a lion roaring. Yes. And at the end of this, my buddy and I looked at each other and said, "What was that?" And we're looking off down the mountain in the dark, pitch darkness, going, "Holy mother!" And we had, oh my God! And it kept us awake for another hour. And just about the time we were exhausted and started crawling back into the tent, our mule started going absolutely crazy, and like it was being killed. And we ran over to it, and her ears were back, and her eyes were big, and her nostrils were flaring, and she had her front left leg up in the air, and something had twisted her front left leg, and that knee eventually swelled up about 3 times its natural size, and she had a lot of trouble putting any weight on it for the next few days. And so, I mean, something seriously scared her. I don't know how she injured her leg, but we untied her, and she hobbled back over, and then she slept. I mean, she was tied up right next, just far enough away from our tent to where she wouldn't step on us. And she was very scared. And
wow.
That was an extremely strange experience there. But if I could real quick, though, I know see that we're getting real short on time. I would to just briefly, if I could please tell you about some exciting stuff that we're going to be having come out from the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. Has had we have a website, and it is woodape.org, woodape.org, and if anybody wishes to go on there, on the front page there is a link, is a YouTube video of a presentation that Kathy and I did in Oregon 2 years ago, and that it was on what's called the Ouachita. There I go. I mispronounced it. It's Ouachita.
Yes.
Yeah.
That one's tricky.
Yeah.
You'll slide on that.
Ouachita Project Monograph, and which Kathy again is my beautiful smart anthropologist wife was involved in putting this together, and the scientific paper. And it's a paper that's available for download. It's free on the website. There's a presentation that we gave in Oregon, so that's about an hour-long YouTube video if somebody wants to watch that. And then we're going to have another one coming out. I gave a presentation in Eureka. She and I both gave a split presentation in Eureka a couple of weeks ago, and that's going to be available in the next couple of weeks. We'll put it up there. And we used a little radio tracking device, and we think that we hope we never got an eyeball on it, but we were able to snag something that snagged it off of a sewing thread at the height of 7.5 feet, and we were able to follow this tiny little radio tracking device for a period of about 9 months, and tracked the range of this little radio tracking device. And we're coming out with a scientific paper that we hope to get published soon, and have some extrapolations there on what may be the home range of, if we're correct, and what we believe the home range of a wood ape in southeast Oklahoma. So it's a very exciting work that we're doing. Yeah.
That is amazing.
It is pretty amazing. It's like I say, when that YouTube video comes out, we give a presentation, and we were able to get it videoed, and we're in the process of getting that all put together now. When that's available, I'll send you a link to it, and you can see that and some of the results that we've gotten. And we're going to continue our work through the NAWAC there in southeast Oklahoma. We continue to have a long-term presence there. We go at the spring, and we go all the way through summer, have a continuous presence in what we call Area X. And we're trying to document this animal in absolutely every way possible. So
that's pretty awesome.
Video, audio, DNA from little snares, everything, absolutely. If it's a possible way to prove it to science, that's what we're involved in, and that's going to be our emphasis. And Kathy is one of the leading researchers there, of course, and we have a couple of PhDs on board, wildlife biologists, and Kathy's the only anthropologist that I know of on that in our group. But we're doing some great things, and We're non-funded. We're a nonprofit. All this equipment, thousands of dollars worth of equipment come out of our own pockets, and thousands of person hours in the field, and so it's really exciting stuff. And hopefully one day we will have some definitive results. But we're not going to give up, and we're not going to rest till we get some definitive results where everybody goes, whoa, that's the real deal, and it's gonna be the real deal. It's not going to be ambiguous, and that's what we're shooting for.
Well, I am very proud of both you and Kathy and your team and what you're doing, and it's so exciting. And I'm so excited that someone is out there doing this. And I hate that you're not funded. I know there are so many researchers out there that are doing it on their own dime and their own time, and but those are the ones that are coming up with everything that we know so far. If you think about it, there are people out there that have written books that have never seen one and have never spent very many nights out in the woods at all. But then there's those people that we value so much as the actual feet on the ground grassroots researchers. Mm-hmm. And you and Kathy are definitely that. And I would like very, very much one day to have both you and Kathy on, maybe towards the end of the season. We'll have you both back on, and maybe you'll have a little more. You'll have something more to share with us by that time. That would be great to have you both on.
Yeah.
At the time,
yeah.
We had Kathy on a couple of years ago. We had Kathy on, and so to have you on also, and then to have both of you on, that would be just like excellent.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. No, she puts me to shame. She's so smart. She makes me look like I'm just a knuckle dragger. But
give yourself enough
I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah,
you
for sure.
Excellent way of telling your stories that's just captivating, and we thank you so much for coming on our show. It's been a great interview, and I just people like you make me very excited about what we're doing out here, and sometimes I need that little kick in the butt, and you've been my little kick in the butt, and I appreciate it.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind words. You're too kind.
Well, I wish you and Kathy and your team the best of luck. I hope that everything that you're trying to find out, you're able to find out. I know how hard it is to get out there and have things. It just seems like you try and you come up with nothing. But I hope that everything comes. If you keep trying, sooner or later, you're going to come across, and we need somebody out there that's doing it, that's really doing it. I think you two are. And
scientifically, because that helps our cause.
Exactly.
Yes. That's it. And we're gonna keep it up. And thank you for what you're doing as well. Thank you for bringing our stories to the public. I really appreciate that. You're doing great work.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, believe me. We enjoy talking to the researchers, hearing their experiences. I've learned stuff from people on these shows that I've tried myself, all kinds of different ideas from all over the United States. I feel extremely blessed that I'm in a position that I can learn from other people, because that's what it's all about. Never quit learning, because somebody else has had an experience or tried something, or just finding out that people in other states, thousands of miles from where you live, are having very similar experiences, which tells us quite a bit, So,
yeah.
well,
Sure.
I don't know what time it is, but
it's time.
it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I guess we better call it a show. And thank you again so much for coming on, Bob. You were awesome.
Yes,
Well, thank you
so
so much. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lauren. It's been a great pleasure and my honor.
Thank you. Tell Kathy we said hi, and we're going to, rope her into doing this. You have to talk her into it.
Okay. Okay, I will. I'll pass that along.
All right. Okay, well, good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Well, everyone, that's the show, and we will see you all next week. Now, Lauren and I are going to be going on a little adventure next weekend, and so we'll probably have some experiences to talk about. So, anyway, yeah, let's hope we're not dragging too bad Sunday night, but we will be here for next Sunday, same time, same bat station. So we'll see you all there, and I want to tell y'all thanks for listening, and good night.
Good night.